Hello, everyone, and welcome to F.Y.I. Uxbridge, a program about the people, places, and events that occur here in our town of Uxbridge. My name is Barry Giles. I'm the station manager here at Uxbridge Community Television. Today, I have my, once again, returning guest. It's that time of the year, spring. Town meeting is coming up, and my guest today is Town Manager Steve Setti. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Barry.
Again.
Thanks for having me again.
So we're doing our annual review of the town warrant, going over the articles and giving the community an idea of what's going on. So let's dive right into it. You know, once again, spring annual town meeting will be Tuesday, May 13th and Thursday, May 15th at 7 p.m. at the Valley Chapel, which is on 14 Hunter Road here in Uxbridge. So let's start with why 2 dates?
Okay. There's a combination of things in this warrant. The majority of things that'll be taken up on day one on the Tuesday are all the financial articles, budget, capital spending, all those kind of things, any borrowing authorizations that we normally would do. The second part, though, there's a number of zoning issues, a number of other things that need to be addressed, some that might take more time than others. So we decided rather than get to a point at the end of the meeting where people want to go home and those are just going to be rushed through, we decided to just separate it on 2 days. Okay. So that all those articles can get the time that they deserve as well. Okay. So that's the reason for the 2 days.
Do you think there's a possibility we could get it done in one, or?
I don't think so. I think the moderator's probably going to call a break. Okay. Anyway. Now, that doesn't mean that somebody can't make a motion to move something up in the meeting, and as long as enough people say yes, they want to do that, that gets done, which will kind of adjust some things for that next night. But I do think if everybody kind of sticks to the way everything's broken out, you'll see that there's a definite break point. Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Okay, great. All right, let's get into it. It looks like we have 27 articles.
Yes.
And starting with Article 1.
Okay. The first few articles are the normal articles that we always have. Any bills of prior year that we need to pay. Those are bills that come in after the close of the prior fiscal year that we have to wait until the next town meeting to be able to pay because of the fact they came in late. And any supplemental budget things, so anything monies that we need to put into this year's budget because either we didn't put enough money in a budget line or overexpended because of a particular instance or whatever. That's why we have Article 2 to supplement the fiscal 25 budget. Starting at Article 3, that's when we really get into the spends for this upcoming year. Article 3 has both the Blackstone Valley Regional School District and also Norfolk County School District as well. We're voting both of those separately. Gives the voters an opportunity to to approve those budgets or decline them for some reason. But also gives us a little bit of opportunity to explain what goes into those budgets as well. Okay. So people know combined, you're talking about $3 to $4 million that we're spending, on those type of education, and it's probably a good idea for people to have an understanding. The other thing with Article 3, we called it out a little bit separately as well, is because this is going to be the last year that Dr. Mike Fitzpatrick is going to be the superintendent of the Blackstone Valley Tech. And I think it's a nice opportunity for us to recognize Dr. Fitzpatrick and all that he's done for BVT over the years. So it'll be a nice way to have some recognition for him. Article 4 is the main town budget. So that includes both the Uxbridge municipal side and Uxbridge public schools as well. I'll probably do a presentation before the budget just to give people some high level understanding of what went into the budget, what we did, what we didn't include, those kind of things. And I believe Dr. Dwyer is going to do the same for the Uxbridge schools as well. Okay. So people have an idea of basically how fiscal 25 went and what the asks for fiscal 26 are. And I think that's also, makes a lot of sense that we do that. And again, one of the other reasons why we separated the meeting out over 2 nights, so it gives an opportunity to have some good discussion, good understanding of what people are voting on. Article 5 and 6 are both wastewater and water enterprise funds. The only reason we separate that out from the town budget, is because of the fact that we run those as enterprise. Those are fee-based. Those are only the users of the system is, what goes into paying for that. So that's separate from the town budget, which is all encompassing.
I'm familiar with enterprise budget, which no longer
Right.
will be taken care of in my department.
Right, and we'll talk about that in fiscal 26. That now, cable enterprise is no longer an enterprise fund; it's now a department of the town. Makes great sense to do that, and and I think going forward, it basically solidifies and ensures that the same kind of coverage that people are getting now with Uxbridge Cable TV, they'll continue to get, which is a really good thing. Article 7. This again separate article. This is a stabilization fund request from Blackstone Valley Tech. What this does, it creates a fund for them to use for things that may be over and above what they budgeted for. People have pro and con on that as to whether or not that's a good thing or not. But this allows the people of the town to vote for it after they get some more information on what type of things that might be used for. Article 8 and 9 have to do with capital. Article 8 is, Kurt Gintwain, who's our finance director in the town of Uxbridge, has done a really good job over the last few years of going back through all the prior capital improvement articles. And anything that has monies that have not been expended, once the projects have closed out, he's beginning to sweep those back into the capital stabilization account.
Okay.
He did it again this year, and I'm pleased to say that $235,000 that had just been sitting out there unused is now going to go back into capital stabilization, which can be reused for other capital projects.
Right.
And we do have a number of capital projects that we're going to be looking for some approvals on. They go from DPW projects to projects that are a little bit different than we may have approved in the past. We have people are going to see there's a $420,000 request for an ambulance from the fire department, and I know the first question is going to be, well, didn't we set up a fund for that? Well, we did, and the Department of Revenue for the state basically has told us we can no longer have the fund set up that way. For that purpose, all those funds should be general fund monies or monies that go into capital stabilization and need to be voted out. So we did. So we made sure that everybody's going to be aware of the fact that how much money was in that account previously, now part of capital, and on a regular basis or when we need an ambulance, we will vote the money out to be able to do that. So that's what that $420,000 is. There's some other school department items in here, ranging from creating a quiet corner at the Whiten School playground area for some students who just might need some time to kind of be away from the things that are going on in the playground and so forth. There's some safety lighting type things and some architectural plans that need to be drawn out for the secondary egress from the high school. There's some funds being allocated towards that. And then we began a transition, the school department began a system-wide transition to touchscreens that we're funding through capital as well, the continuation of that. I've made a request for $200,000 for the McCluskey School, and that's going to replace the bleachers in the gym and also redo the floor. The floor hadn't been done in over 25 years, so it's going to be brought back to natural. And then, lines repainted and so forth, so that it'll really stand out.
Yeah,
and then
that's a facility that's being utilized today.
Right, quite a bit for a lot of different ways.
Recreation, senior center, and
Exactly.
so many more.
Exactly. And the bleachers too. I think the bleachers are a little bit dated in the fact that, many of the folks that come and watch the games are more like me in the fact that we need to make sure that, people are going to be able to get in and out of those bleachers safely. And so we're going to redo the bleachers. And then I believe the other side of the gym floor, that'll be to the left as you walk in. Those bleachers, I believe, might be removed as well. The plan is by, Uxbridge Spartan basketball, is to have, instead of having benches along the sides, they're going to actually have like the kind of what you see in a college gym, or folding chairs and so forth with a logo on and so forth. So when it's all said and done, I think it's going to look really nice. And anybody that goes over there will really appreciate that. We also have $140,000 at McCluskey for some heat exchanger and so forth. And people say, why are we spending money on the McCluskey building? What are we going to do with it? Well, that's I'm pleased to say that that's in the process now. I have an architect and an engineer that'll be doing a walkthrough. They took the plans that were done a number of years ago, on basically a $70 million project, and I've asked them to kind of pare that down a little bit as best they can. So they're going to begin that process. So hopefully, potentially as early as the October meeting or shortly thereafter, we'll have something to report back to say this is what, if we're going to do anything with that building on a major renovation, we'll have some plans in place.
Great.
And then the other things are more DPW related with respect to equipment type purchases. The next 3 or 4 big articles that we'll have some discussion on, I know, are going to be from Article 11 through Article 14. They're borrowing authorizations for the most part, well, at least 3 of them. One is for school safety. Chief Montminy is going to have a presentation with respect to what will go into what that expenditure is. It's a significant amount of money, about $600,000 that we're looking to expend on that. There'll be a borrowing authorization for a fire engine. This is just to replace an engine that's over 25 years old. So the upside is when we do buy this type of equipment, it lasts quite a bit of time. So that's why we're going to borrow for it rather than, try to do to the capital process. It will outlast whatever kind of loan that we take out on it. And Chief Dion will speak to that. Article 13 is a borrowing authorization for the water treatment plant. Now, we did authorize some funds at a previous town meeting for this project, and that was so that we would have a submission to go into the state revolving fund, so we'd be able to apply to get funding for this project at basically 0% interest. We were successful in doing that. I just got word within the last week that we were selected. Our project was selected, so that's a good thing. The only negative, though, is when the things went out to bid, things came back. They came in higher than what we had originally anticipated. So we need to look to fund some more money for this. You'll see it's going to be 3 different options that people will have. One will be the base bid option, which is to build just the treatment plant. The second option will be to do a base plus, one section, which is an add-on section for office space and so forth there, versus, continuing to use the other building that we currently have. And then Adult 2, which will be the third vote if people so choose, will be to vote to do the base, the office space, and also garaging and so forth for the equipment that we have. So any one of those 3 options will be, what people could vote for. We definitely need, though, the base bid, which is to do the treatment plant.
Right.
The other thing we will be doing, and we'll talk about this a little bit, is we got involved with some of the PFAS lawsuits that have been going on around the country. We got in early, as a matter of fact, and it all had to do with well testing and whether or not our wells had any contamination. We did find one of them, or a couple of them did. So, we were part of this class action suit. 3M, one of the companies that was involved in producing these type chemicals, did just settle their suit, and payments had begun being made to the communities. We're receiving a check probably before town meeting for $256,000. That's the first payment of 5 that we're going to receive on this program. We'll probably receive another 45% of what we're owed in the summer. So we'll have about $750,000 of what our payment will be. That will go towards this project as well. So that will reduce the amount of money that we need to borrow. And then over time, there's 3 other suits that'll be decided, and what we get out of those will also go to this. So, there'll be other things that go in to reduce the net impact to the ratepayers. So we're those are things we'll discuss as well. Article 14 is one that I'm sure there'll be a little bit of discussion on. This has to do with what the town subsidy for insurance for our retired employees are. Right now, there's an 80-20 split where the town picks up 80% of that, the retiree picks up 20. There's a Chapter 32B in Mass General Law was passed after this came in effect. And basically what the town needs to do is either adopt either Chapter 32B, Section 9A or 9E. Now, if we decide to go to Section 9A, it would be an automatic 50-50 split. So the retirees would go from paying 20% all the way up to 50%.
Right.
If we adopt 9E, which is what we're recommending here, is that we could go anywhere from 50 plus. So we could still move it up the scale versus staying at 50-50.
Right.
So we can go to, we're at 80-20, we can go to 70-30, we can go to 65, 35, whatever we want to do. But that gives us that flexibility. The thing that people need to understand, though, is if this doesn't pass, automatically it's 100% on the retiree.
Okay, so one of these two options needs to pass.
Right. And the option and the best option, in our opinion, is the one to adopt 9E.
Right.
Because that gives us more flexibility. The other articles, 15, 16, 17 are, one has to do with the 5-year evaluation. We have to make an appropriation for the assessor to be able to do that. That's mandatory by state law. Not the most pleasant thing I'm sure people are going to want to hear, because it has to do with valuation of their properties, but it needs to be done. The Dew Lane appropriation. This Dew Lane is a road that 20 plus years ago at a town meeting was accepted as a town road. But through the fault of the town at the time, folks at the town never recorded it at the registry of deeds, and the lack of better term, statute of limitations has run out, so that it can't be recorded with that data. So what we have to do is go back and do, some survey work to make sure nothing's changed and so forth. And then we can, in October, ask the town to accept this as a town road again, and then we'll make sure it gets recorded. But it meets all the other specifications, and so we're looking to do that. It's a small amount of money that we're asking for to do the survey and so forth. Article 17 allows us to increase from $1,000 to $10,000 the amount of personal property exemption. This is more business related. It's something, even if we do it, it doesn't amount to a lot of revenue loss on the town's part, but it also helps some of the smaller businesses in town as well. And that's, the reason we're doing it. As we get to Article 18, that's going to start day 2. Okay, the meeting, as I mentioned, those are mostly zoning articles. Article 18 is a bylaw amendment for the floodplain overlay. Obviously, as we all know, the rainstorms and stuff we've been having, used to be considered 100-year storms.
Right.
Well, it seems like those 100-year storms are happening every 5 years now. And more area has become flooded. So FEMA has came out with a new flood map, and this allows us to amend the floodplain, so people that hadn't been getting flooded or never had to worry about it in the past or are now will now be part of the floodplain and allow them to get flood insurance.
Okay.
So we're looking to do that. The second one, was a controversial issue during the past year, and that's adopting battery energy storage system bylaw, which will restrict these type of development to certain areas, and won't allow it in other areas, more primarily residential areas. But we think we have a strong bylaw that'll pass the Attorney General's test as well, which would they look at. So we don't want it to be so restrictive that it's exclusionary, and we don't feel that it is. So we're able to do that. The last one is to amend the accessory dwelling unit bylaw. The state came up with some language that basically allows these type units to happen. We need to put a bylaw in place as well, so that it's consistent with state law, but also doesn't allow things to happen, so that people will have Airbnb, those type units. These will be strictly for that people will live in on a regular basis. Won't be transient housing, that kind of thing. So we're putting the bylaw changes in. I think the zoning board, planning, conservation, building, everybody who had to have a say on this did a really good job of working through that.
Good.
Article 21 is a street acceptance for Campanelli Drive extension. We're ready to accept that road to town standards. There were some things that needed to be done prior to that. All that work got done, so there's both the select board and the finance committee recommend favorable action on that one. In on Elm Street, same thing. Article 23, the developer withdrew. Article 24 and 25, we're just going to pass over at this point. You might see them again in October. And then Article 26 and 27 are citizens petitions. One having to do with rescind the borrowing authorization for the it says Burnett Well project, but it should have read Blackstone Well project. That's the project that we spoke about earlier with the treatment plant. Again, that's a question as to whether or not it'll stay here at the end of the meeting or be moved up earlier. That's really up to town meeting as to how they want to do that. And also the moderator, if the moderator thinks that while it's what it's supposed to be for,
Right.
and the commentary does reflect that, the title of it isn't exactly what it is. So could that be ruled out of order? That's really up to its moderator's discretion. And then on the Article 27 will be more for, to have more study on this, whether or not that, again, that gets done, and how it's done. It's asking to set up a committee to look at those kind of things. And, we already have the Water and Sewer Commissioner, so it's really a town meeting decision how they want to move with that as well. And that would be the warrant for this town meeting. Like I said, some things should flow pretty easily,
Right.
but other things definitely we'll have some discussion on. We're trying to anticipate where those things would be to try to get as much information out as possible. If people go to the town website now, there's a lot of information on there, especially with respect to the budget. Made it a point this year to put everything there, so no questions about transparent. Exactly. We even have a line item by line item budget, that was up there for all the departments. That won't be part of this warrant because it'll end up being, a book,
Right.
basically.
Encyclopedia.
And I don't think
For
people
those who remember those.
right. And I don't think it'll be something people will want to be lugging around town meeting, but all that information is available beforehand. And thanks to you and your staff, all the public hearings on the budget and actually on this entire warrant were all televised and rebroadcast, and they're available for people to watch. So there's lots of ways for people to get information, and then pick up the phone, call my office, if they if they have more questions. But all in all, I think everything's out there for people to see.
Great.
So, and hopefully we get a good turnout town meeting. It flows pretty well.
Absolutely. Great. All right, Steve, thank you very much.
Thank you.
For your time and everything else. And once again, a reminder that spring annual town meeting will be on Tuesday, May 13th and Thursday, May 15th at 7 p.m. at the Valley Chapel here in Uxbridge, which is on 14 Hunter Road. Once again, if you want more information in regards to the warrant articles and so on, you can go to the Uxbridge Town website at uxbridge-ma.gov. And if you'd like to review any of the information from the meetings that were covered in the hearings, you can go uxbridgetv.org and go to our archive page, and those meetings are there for your review. So once again, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, you can also contact me. You can find my email on the town website. And if you know anybody that's interested in coming on the show to promote an event, or somebody that got something going on, you can reach out to me again, and we could schedule time here in the studio. So that's going to do it here for F.Y.I. Uxbridge. Thank you very much for watching.